Only those mobile enough to scavenge, brutal enough to pillage would survive. The gangs took over the highways, ready to wage war for a tank of juice. And in this maelstrom of decay, ordinary men were battered and smashed. Men like Max, the warrior Max. In the roar of an engine, he lost everything. And became a shell of a man. A burnt-out, desolate man. A man haunted by the demons of his past. A man who wandered out into the wasteland. And it was here, in this blighted place, that he learned to live again.
The Road Warrior is one of the most original movies I've ever seen. It's exciting, imaginative, and very strange. The Road Warrior is set in the near future in Australia following World War III, which has left the countryside desolate, save for wandering gangs looking for the world's most precious commodity now, gasoline. And battles for gasoline is what this movie is about, showing us people struggling to survive in this barren land. In this scene, a bunch of nice people try to defend themselves against a roving gang of thieves. Leading the good guys is a reluctant hero named Max, who sure knows how to drive a truck. Well, you've got the central image in this movie. That's one vehicle rolling over another or a human being. George Miller is the director of The Road Warrior, and his imagination that forms the distinctive look of this film, of the world in The Road Warrior, which is sort of a cross between Death Valley and a punk nightmare. I've seen a lot of car chases in my years as a film critic, but nothing quite like the action in this movie. This is one of those pictures where you watch these stunts and you keep saying, I don't know how they do it. Obviously, this film is extremely violent, but for some reason it never bothered me because the violence is presented in an almost comic book manner. You can't take it seriously. What also holds our attention is one of the wildest assortment of characters I've ever seen. You notice that little mongrel boy. Max is also sort of a cross between Steve McQueen and Martin Sheen, and the villains defy description. This is a truly original and most entertaining movie.
My head was ringing when I walked out of the theater. I was absolutely drained. I didn't have the strength to push the elevator button. This movie is non-stop for 2 hours, total, flat-out action and violence. And as you say, comic book violence. I don't know how they did the stunts either. I thought I was looking at shots that were not faked, in which people had to be killed. I assume they weren't, or we would have heard about it. But the special effects in the movie are sensational. The pacing is amazing.
The music is non-stop, wall-to-wall music. It drives you as you're sitting there in your seat. Some of the action is obviously over-cranked so that we're getting speeded-up footage, but it is very powerful. And I also enjoyed some of the twists of the plot. Characters die that you don't think are going to die. Relationships, I'll give you one. I was certain that there was going to be a male-female romance scene in the picture. I just expected it. It's standard in this sort of thing. Not one. And it's set up, never happens.
It's real tough at 120 miles an hour.
Right, well, I know. But the surprises in this film, I think, are so good.
And he makes an entire world. You're right. He makes an apocalyptic post-World War III world that is, it's not convincing, really, intellectually, but it's convincing in terms of the movie.
Certainly. Both Roger and I enjoyed The Road Warrior, George Miller's futuristic fantasy, a journey into violence, the likes of which you've probably never seen before.
In the fullness of time, I became the leader, the chief of the great northern tribe. And the Road Warrior, that was the last we ever saw of him. He lives now, only in my memory.